Welcome to a new Voltlog. So a while ago I did this video on how I repaired the Unifi Nano HD access point. That was a very popular video. The access point had some issues on its power over Ethernet power supply circuit. After the repair, the access point has been running happily at my home ever since, but I've been on the lookout acquiring other defective Unifi gear to do more repairs, and it feels good to do these repairs. It feels good to then do these videos and empower the people so they can repair these as well and save them from the landfill. And ultimately I am left with a very capable piece of tech for, maybe a fifth of the original purchase cost, at least compared to the new purchase cost. So in the meantime, I scored this Unifi U6 Lite access point for roughly 27 euros shipped, a little more than what I would have liked to pay. If you can get these for 20 euros shipped defective, then I think that's a more decent cost, but I think we can make it work. Unifi discontinued this model, I believe, but it's still sold by a bunch of shops for around 110-120 euros new. The main specs are 4 streams, dual radio, 2.4 and 5 GHz, 2x2 MIMO, 300 plus clients, 300 megabits on the 2.4 and 1.2 gigabits on the 5 GHz. Definitely not up to modern standards, but honestly more than enough for my needs and still relevant today if you ask me. I received this unit nicely packed in this original box, but this is from a U7 Lite, so I'm guessing the user upgraded to the U7 Lite after the U6 Lite failed. Inside the box I also got a couple of accessories, the drill template, the mounting plate, and actually this mounting clip for the back of the access point. Let's see if it's from this one or from a different model. Yeah, it fits, but there are no other accessories like the screws included. What I like is that the access point is very clean, no yellowing, so that's a big plus because sometimes these can come from a place where somebody was smoking and they turn yellow, and it's nearly impossible to clean that off without scratching the paint off the case. The seller declared that he was no longer able to control it. I don't know what that means, but we're gonna find out soon. I've also looked around the seam of the enclosure and it looks very clean, it's perfect. I don't think anyone tried to pry this open, that's a good sign. And also the RJ45 connector looks neat and clean, and that's also a good sign. Now let's check what happens if we power it up using an original PoE injector from Ubiquiti. The injector is on, the white LED is turned on. And there's no activity on the access point, and I have a power meter. It's pulling 1.6 watts from the wall. The LED is staying on, so that's telling me that it's not going into any sort of, it's not tripping any sort of overcurrent protection on the injector. It's just doing nothing. It doesn't tell me too much, which means we need to disassemble it for further investigation. There are a number of clips around this edge that hold this top plastic cover to the bottom enclosure, and you have to work your way around using soft plastic spudgers in order to avoid damaging the plastic cover. It's a little bit difficult until you get the first spudger in, but actually for this one it went pretty easy afterward. And one thing that I noticed is that for this particular model there is some adhesive gasket in here sealing the enclosure. So depending on the state of this adhesive, it might make it harder to open. In my case it was soft, easy to open. But now we're in, and we notice some interesting antennas in here. This one is probably the 5 GHz, these ones are probably for the 2.4 GHz. This is probably for the Bluetooth. Let's see if we can identify this chip because it's positioned so close to the power over Ethernet input. There is an inductor in the capacitor, which most certainly makes it power related. So this is the LM 76003 from Texas Instruments, and if we take a look at its datasheet, we learned that this is a synchronous step-down voltage regulator which can take up to 60 volts input, but this is not doing all of the PoE stuff alone, so we need to take the PCB off to check the other side. And on the other side of this PCB we find another interesting IC. This 8-pin device is the TPS2376, which is an 802.3AF PoE controller. This basically manages the communication with the Ethernet side to establish and negotiate for PoE. At its input, which is on this side, we notice some filtering, a couple of bridge diodes, and the classic TVS protection diode on a PoE input. And in order to further debug or repair this, we need to understand the block diagram. So we have the Ethernet connection right here, which goes through the bridge rectifiers for rectifying the voltage to DC. Then, some smoothing plus protection TVS diode. Then comes the TPS2376, which negotiates. Then from this guy, the voltage goes to the DC to DC converter, which is on the other side, the LM76003. The LM76003 is in charge of stepping this down to a lower voltage that is then feeding into the rest of the circuit. And any one of these blocks not doing their job results in power not being generated on this PCB. So now we need to start doing some measurements, and to save you the time, I have already performed these measurements using a multimeter. So I have in fact checked for DC voltage right at the input of the DC to DC converter on this capacitor, and I was getting 48 volts on this, which is about right. So we are getting the PoE voltage rectified to DC at the input of this DC to DC converter, but on its output, when I checked on the output of the DC to DC converter, I'm getting 0 volts. Now that means our DC to DC converter isn't starting, and there could be several reasons for that. It could be under heavy load, short circuit on its output, it could be a bad DC to DC converter chip, it could be a bad auxiliary component that fails to set some of its pins correctly for a startup. And at this point, you can grab the DC to DC converter datasheet. You can do some checks like making sure that the enable pin is set correctly to get the turn on signal probably coming from the PoE controller. But what I like doing, because I find it gets me quicker to the root cause, is just to inject voltage at the output of the DC to DC converter to see if the rest of the circuitry is working fine, because there is going to be some downstream regulators further regulating that voltage down and feeding it to the chips. So that's why I typically solder a couple of wires to the output capacitor of the DC to DC converter and then inject the voltage externally using my bench power supply. Now, how do you determine which voltage to inject? Because obviously too little isn't going to turn on the circuit correctly, or too much is going to fry something downstream. And to figure that one out, you just have to make an educated guess. You start from the assumption that this DC to DC converter is rated for 3.5 amps. And for it to deliver 10 to 15 watt, which is the maximum that such an access point would ever need, that would put it in the range of having 5 volts on the output. Now 5 volts also sounds like a good power distribution voltage to run across your board into the downstream converters. And also another check that I did was to identify this downstream DC to DC converter. So this gets fed by the main DC to DC, and this generates another power rail needed for a processor here. And this is the MT3058, and if we check its datasheet, its input is up to maximum 6 volts. So our educated guess is probably correct that we have 5 volts being generated on this main DC to DC converter, which is then fed into all of the secondary regulators on this board. So I have set my bench power supply for 5 volts 3 amps limit. I turn it on and immediately it hit the current limit, and this tells me that there is something shorting that 5 volt rail. But what could it be? At this point, it is very useful if you have a thermal camera like I have here. This is the Guide E2 Plus, and I also have the optional macro lens for it. And I have reviewed this camera in a previous video. It is excellent for electronics repair and general purpose work, and you can get it from our good friends over on lshop.eu. A link will be provided in the description. Now, checking with the thermal camera while we apply 5 volts, we immediately spot something is off in this DC to DC converter area. There's a temperature on a component here that immediately jumps to 90 to 100 degrees Celsius, and that shouldn't happen. Now zooming in with the micro lens on the thermal camera shows that it's actually this small capacitor at the input right close to the DC to DC converter chip. And if you have any electronics background, you know that these MLCCs can sometimes fail short. So quick action with the soldering iron and a bit of flux, and I have that capacitor desoldered. And next up, I applied 5 volts again, and now it's just pulling 300 milliamps. No more current limit, and I did a quick check with the thermal camera, no more hot spots, just a normal 30 to 40 degrees temperature. And I also could spot the activity LED turning on the access point, so that is all very good news. Now I also ran a quick check with the PoE input, and I see 3 to 4 watts power draw on my power monitor, which is about right. And again, we get that activity LED. So yeah, we have confirmation that functionality has been restored, and it was that small ceramic capacitor which has failed short, and it was actually shorting the output of the main DC to DC converter. Now, judging by its position and size, that is likely a 100 nanofarad input decoupling capacitor, and I have plenty of those in stock in the required 0603 size. Quick correction, that was actually quick correction, I double checked the size, and it is actually an 0402 sized capacitor, so I'm going to be installing a replacement right now. I use some magnification, but I have the new capacitor installed. I'm going to do a quick cleanup of the PCB before putting it back together. I'm actually quite surprised that the repair of this was so simple, and I wouldn't have expected this type of failure. I would have expected maybe a PoE controller or a DC to DC converter, a diode bridge, something like that, which would have required me to order new parts. Obviously a little more expensive in that case, but seems like the god of repairs rewarded us with a few cents worth of repair to compensate for the slightly higher purchase price of this unit. I have reassembled the unit. I also followed the reset procedure, and it shows up on my Unifi controller ready to adopt. So this was very much a successful repair, and I think this video deserves a thumbs up because of how unusual the defect was. And as always, I would appreciate your feedback in the comments below, especially if this video helped you repair something. Let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.